Первым таким вызовом
The first of such challenges is remaining in tune with the world energy communication. It has a very obvious and natural nature. There are simply new centers for economic development. Consumption is growing, and that is it. But, of course, we face the artificial collapse of energy architectures caused by aggressive and very forceful actions of some Western elites. As you know, many European countries, for example, under political pressure, refuse to purchase Russian energy resources. I have already noted what such a refusal leads to for Western countries themselves and for their economic production potential. We are seeing the consequences of these actions in the EU, including a drop in industry turnover and a price increase due to higher oil and gas prices. There is a decrease in the competitiveness of European goods and the overall economy. According to Eurostat, the volume of industrial production in the Eurozone in July of this year remains below the value of 2021 by 1.2%. The decline in industrial production continues in the so-called locomotive of the European economy, Germany. The current year's decline was 6.6% in June, in comparison with the average level of 2021. Well, electric engines are emerging, yes, that is right. But where to get electricity? Electricity does not emerge from the outlet. It must be produced from something, from coal and coal mine and so on. Russia maintains a position of one of the leading oil producers, despite the use of unfair competition mechanisms against us. We provide about 10% of world production and expect 510 million tons of oil to be mined by the end of the year in our country. This is approximately 1% less than last year. But let me draw your attention to this. Dear colleagues, this happens according to agreements in the framework of the OPEC Plus agreement, i.e., a voluntary reduction. Russia continues its cooperation in the framework of the OPEC Plus agreement. Our partners, and we fulfill our obligations to balance the world oil market. I would like to point out that this action is being taken not only by producers, but also by consumers. The result of joint efforts exists. First of all, I am talking about the amount of offers to the market and the level of price equitability. These parameters are for oil producers as well as oil consumers. They enable the industry to launch investment projects. And what is more, they create conditions for a much more predictable development of the entire global economy. Predictions in the oil market are probably the most important thing in the world economy. Gas consumption in the Asia-Pacific region, the Middle East, and Latin America is growing steadily, whereas demand for gas in Europe is still lower than it was in 2019. Why is the demand for primary energy lower? Because industrial production decreases. We do not need so much. That is all. The EU's démarche has only accelerated the change of the vector of our deliveries in favor of more prospective, responsible buyers. States that know their interests and act rationally based on those particular national interests. Our gas companies make sure that our markets are supplied reliably. We are increasing internal consumption, which is exceptionally important, including at gas chemical plants being built in the Volga region, Siberia, and the far east of Russia. We are increasing the supply of blue fuel to our towns and villages. In the last 5 years, more than 100,000 kilometers of gas distribution network have been laid out. As a result, the gasification rate in Russia is approaching 75%. If Western markets reduce the demand for coal, Asian countries will increase it. It is clear that this has to do primarily with the economic effectiveness of coal generation. However, given the shift in global business activity in the Asia-Pacific region, we can expect that the coal market will remain significant and large for decades. In the next 25 years, our energy output will double, and approximately 85% of our additional demand will form beyond the so-called developed economies, in the countries of the global south. The Russian power system is one of the largest in the world. Our generation lines have a total power of almost 270 gigawatts, and this huge complex functions stably and steadily. At the same time, we are facing local energy shortages, first of all in areas where large industrial, transport, and logistical projects are under construction. We need to cover this deficit by developing electric power plants, updating the fleet of generating equipment, and building new electric power plants. I must emphasize that the energy companies' costs should not mechanically be shifted to the tariff on the shoulders of consumers. The goal is to implement more flexible solutions including regulatory innovations, management of electricity demand, technological involvement, and support mechanisms for investments in technology. I asked the government of Russia to define the place for energy and fuel balances in the state's strategic documents. Together with colleagues from the regions, we must prepare these balances for all federal areas of Russia and base them on a modern system of digital administration of regional energy supply. This system must pay attention to the use of various types of energy and fuel resources, choosing what is most effective for each region of our country.